story and is in the process of full certification in the Masgutova Neurosensorimotor Reflex integration program. She's been trained by the state of PA in family peer support. Her current role includes providing direct neurosequential interventions to and education advocacy for children with emotional or behavioral challenges, direct family peer support, and professional development and consultation for adults supporting children. As a member of the PA Department of Public Welfare's Healthcare Work Group, Trauma-Informed Care Subcommittee, she developed a trauma-informed parenting program, Healing Homes. She has also been a member of the PA State Leadership and Management Team, advocating for awareness and intervention for children that have experienced toxic stress. She has also testified before the Pennsylvania State Senate Education Committee on the need for more individualized and cost-effective approaches for students with complex needs. Her efforts to support children has also included membership on the Pennsylvania Citizen Review Panel for Child Protection, where she presented on the prevalence and impact of childhood trauma. Welcome, Rosie Mann.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, I wanted to add one more book to the list that Mr. Z gave you, and I would highly recommend reading the Handbook for Polyvagal Theory, The Transformative Power of Safety, by Dr. Stephen Porges. Just thought I would throw that out there, because we're going to talk a little bit about what safety means in the community. And I look forward to addressing the question that came up about how do you as clinicians help your community and the people that you work with to understand what their needs are and how to meet those needs. I wanted to just give you a 30-second glimpse into my life as the parent of children that have severe trauma histories. That happens to be my youngest son, and the reason that he was videotaped was because providers did not believe me in what I was dealing with in the home and how many hours he would scream at one time without stopping. That's why I have that video, and it goes on much longer than that. So every morning I get up, I get phone calls from parents. I receive a call from a mother who's distraught, locking herself in the bathroom because her daughter is aggressive and throwing things. Then I get a call from another mom who's on her way to school to pick up her son who's being suspended because he threatened another student. Later that day, I get another call because there's a mom who has her daughter under the bed in her room because there happened to have been a cloud in the sky and the daughter believes she's going to die in a thunderstorm. I can't put my son into the car seat and go somewhere because he won't stop beating his brother who's sitting beside him. These are all examples of incidents that caregivers of children with mental health challenges deal with every single day. These are not crises, but these are urgent situations that families need help with. They're also not behavioral issues. These are issues that are not volitional choices. These are issues that are relating to far deeper underlying issues. And we, as a community of adults, And caregivers for these children need to understand it, and we need to know how to intervene with it. Every day I hear from parents, I don't think I can do this anymore. I don't think anyone understands how hard this is, and I am helpless and I am hopeless. And I hear this every day from the families that I work with. So who do they call? Who responds when they call? And where do they go for help? And to this point, this is where we need to bring our boats. As adults and as educators and professionals in the community, we need to bring our boats. And how do we do that? This is how the system is envisioned. That the parents are swimming along, they can go to Compass Mark, they can go to MHA, they are at the dock, they can come in, they'll send them on their way, here's where you need to go, here's what you need to do, and parents will swim over there and access those services and those systems. I'm here to tell you that that's not what reality is. This is reality. This is the reality of the situation that parents are facing. They are just trying to stay afloat, dealing with what's going on in their homes and how they need to respond to their children. So we're trying to stay afloat, and you guys have smaller and smaller resources in which to provide the services that you provide. So not only are our waves getting bigger and harder to manage, your resources and your boats that you guys have are getting further and further away and fewer in number. So the mental health system is overwhelmed. Education is overwhelmed. Finances are limited. Staff is burned out. There's no capacity, so what do we need to do? Children and families struggling to stay afloat with limited access to professional services. How do we calm these stormy waters and stop the surge that is completely inundating your systems and the services that you provide? What we need to do is what Mr. Z talked about. We need to lean on those around us. The answer is that we need to go back to what is the foundation of mental wellness. And oftentimes, to the point of the question that was asked, how do we get people to understand that they have needs? What we do is we don't approach it from the mental illness piece. We tell them what is missing from their mental wellness. What is missing from mental wellness in the majority of people that we come in contact with is the first thing is safety. Safety is missing. What is safety when we're talking about the people that we work with? What safety is, it's the freedom from the experience of suffering. We can't take away events that occur in people's lives. What we need to do is look at how they are experiencing those events and can we reduce their experience of suffering. The other thing is we have to look at connection. How are we connecting with these people? How are we making sure they're engaged with their community? They're engaged with their life, and what does that engagement look like? And the last piece to the point is competence. The people that are coming out of prison, the kids in school, they have to feel they have value and they have worth. How are we going to get them to feel that they have value and worth? Those are the pieces that are missing. So what we need to do is we need to see not only the pathology of mental illness, we need to see the problem and the problem that needs to be fixed. We need to see what's missing from mental wellness, and that's the safety and the connection and competence. And if we look at the brain model that Mr. Z talked about, and we look at the reptilian brain, and we look at the mammalian brain and the human brain, What we're talking about is what those lower parts of the brain want: safety, connection, and a sense of competence and worth. And how are we going to provide that? What we need to do is we need to look at universal supports embedded throughout a children's environment in the home and the community. What does that look like? What we need to do is integrate those silos. We need to give private citizens to bring their boat. And how do we do that? The first thing that we are working on is family peer support. Family peer support is experienced caregivers such as myself and Shelby Whitmer, who are working with other parents with children of special needs. We have been trained, and we provide that coaching and that in-the-moment support for parents to understand how to work with a child's behavior, how to help themselves be able to work with those behaviors and take care of their own mental health. It's like a life preserver. We're going to go out there and we're going to go into that storm with them. We are going to swim that ocean with them, and we're going to get them to the supports and services that they need and give them an understanding of how to best utilize those supports and services in order to get the most positive outcomes for their children. Family peer support is evidence-based. It is a program that is used in, I believe it's currently 11 or 12 counties, it might be more than that since I counted, in the system of care model. And it is a very strong national program that has been researched for probably the past almost 15 years now. And it brings those things to the family, to the caregiver, which are components of mental wellness, because we cannot separate children from their caregivers. Children are not small adults. We can't treat them the same way we would treat adults. So we have to include the caregiver in all treatment models. So this piece, again, we want to provide as a way to incorporate mental wellness into the functioning of the family. The other thing that is important is building community, understanding that each of those caregivers, each of those children are stronger when in community. There is a model of mental health treatment called integrative community therapy. This has been developed in Brazil by Dr. Adalberto Barreto. He is a psychiatrist and anthropologist, and they had an extraordinary mental health crisis in the small villages of Brazil. And he created this model, and this model includes very specific therapeutic strategies for the participants. You have to be a trained facilitator to do this, not a mental health professional, but there is training that you have to take, which I am currently in the process of becoming a certified facilitator for this model. And what it does is it takes therapeutic things that would be done in individual sessions and allows it to be done by what we will specifically be focusing it on caregivers, and it will be presented by trained family peer support providers who are also trained in the integrative community therapy model, and it addresses mind-body connection through dynamic portions of it. It addresses processing and decision-making with a voting process. That's part of it. It addresses efficacy and competence with participants being part of developing solutions for each other through a highly facilitated process. And it uses questions to generate different perspective taking and self-reflection for participants, which are all things that are part of mental wellness that we need to have greater capacity in order to provide for children and families. The other thing that we're going to look at as far as universal supports and services, especially for educators who have to understand the profound role they play in the success or failure of the students that they teach. And what we want to do is create a brand new way of thinking, a different perspective on how adults, parents, faith-based communities, educators look at mental health and look at the functioning of the children. So we want to switch an understanding of, do we want children to comply? Do we want them to subordinate in compliance to our demands, or do we want them to succeed in what they want to do? We get to the same end result, but we neurologically get there in a very different way. Do we want them to complete tasks, or do we want them to feel competent? Both are the same, but a very different perspective. Do we want them to have high achievement, those good grades, get a great job, or do we want them to be able to function effectively in life? Do we want them to focus and attend, or do we want them to have a strong desire to be engaged in what they're doing? And do we want to have to externally motivate them constantly with rewards and consequences that eventually, guess what, are no longer meaningful to them? And we've got to get them more and more and more and higher level rewards in order for them to have an effect? Or do we want to build their internal, natural human desire to please other people and to be worthy and competent? So that's the shift that we want to make in the community, on the ground.